Are you facing something in your life that seems uncrossable? Well, maybe you want to step into what God has for you, but fear is holding you back. Or maybe you're facing a health or financial challenge that you cannot see a way through. I want to encourage you that if you're willing to trust God and step out in faith, He will not only bring you through to the other side, but He will use you to help others step out and trust God too. In Joshua 3, there's this moment where after 40 years of wandering in the desert, the people of Israel are once again facing an uncrossable body of water. This time, it's the Jordan River that stands between them and the Promised Land. It would need a God-sized miracle once again to get across, and we see that God used the priests in bringing about that miracle. God told them to be the first to go, the first to step into the water. Here's what happened in Joshua 3:15 and 17. But as soon as the feet of the priests who were carrying the ark touched the water at the river's edge, the water above that point began backing up a great distance away, and the water below that point flowed onto the Dead Sea until all the riverbed was dry. Then all the people crossed over near the town of Jericho. Meanwhile, the priests who were carrying the Ark of the Lord's covenant stood on dry ground in the middle of the riverbed as the people passed by. They waited there until the whole nation of Israel had crossed the Jordan on dry ground. Wow. The priests, they had a scary job. Not only did they have to be the first to step into the water, but they had to go right into the middle of the river, into the deepest part, where they were required to stand and wait until the entire nation had safely crossed. If that wasn't enough, they were responsible for carrying the Ark of the Covenant the entire time, which represented the very presence of God. Now, what can we learn from this? Well, first, if you are a member of God's family, you're a priest. 1 Peter 2:9 says, but you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood. So, like the priests, even when something seems uncrossable, when there's a great divide between where you are and what God has promised you, you are to step into the unknown, putting all your trust in God. When you feel like maybe you'll drown in debt or in the health or relational crisis you're in, when you want to obey God but you're afraid, as priests, God requires us to step out in faith and trust Him. God is asking you to step into the water, into the seemingly uncrossable water, and be willing to stay in the deep end. Yes, it's His job to part the waters. It is your part to step into the water and to stay there until He finishes His work. And as priests, we carry the very presence of God within us. Wherever we go, we represent God. We are like modern day Ark of the Covenant. We show people that God is with us and we point the way home. And like them, God may require us to stay in the deep for a time in order for God to rescue many other people. I don't know how long those priests had to stand there. It was probably a full day, maybe longer. I'm sure they were tired of holding up that ark. They wanted to get to the other side too, but they stayed there, and God used them to lead an entire nation to the Promised Land. So no matter what you're facing, step out in fear and into the unknown. Put your toe into the water. God is with you. All He asks is that you trust Him. He will not only bring you through to the other side, but He will use you to help others step out and trust God. And that's courageous living.